cloud. Alrighty. So let's get started. So when creating your listing presentation, there's always a couple of things that we are thinking about making sure that's on there. So bio, uh, seller process, and chime in the chat if your strategy is a little bit different in terms of listing presentations. If you have bio, seller process, hold on, I have actually an example somewhere here. Um, and marketing process, testimonials, those often help convey the entire experience. And also, most recently, with having a buyer agency agreement, being a part of that conversation is probably super helpful and maybe necessary for you. I don't know how your process is. Most people are operate in their own way, but let's go over a couple of things here. So I'm gonna share my screen. Let me know if you guys see it on your end. But we'll start with some prompts. So this prompt is what we will be using to create that presentation within Gamma. For those of you who are not familiar with Gamma, Gamma is a AI presentation generator. So it can create slideshows with a simple use of a prompt. What you're going to see on the screen here in just a moment is a ChatGPT prompt. So I went in and said, I want to create a listing presentation. It must have XYZ. I'm a listing agent and I want to create, and stating that I am a or act as a, you want to be very specific so that it creates the scenario and targets the outcome much better. I'm a listing agent and I want to create a listing presentation with Gamma, create a prompt that I can use in Gamma, and then now go into the scenario. So in general building of a prompt, you need to isolate the problem and create that outcome for it. Also acknowledge the tone if that is necessary for this. We will outline everything in a whole general sense and then be more specific as we go into the actual presentation in Gamma as it, or maybe if you want to add the presentation tone, you could. But if you could see in Gamma, it also has a, oops, I'm jumping a little bit ahead. It has some formatting options as well. So before we get there, what are the necessary key things that we want? There are a couple important things that I want in my listing presentation. We need a cover page, bio, uh, process, outline for the process, pricing, include listing details, include details on a CMA for our process for marketing, some testimonials, or community engagement to talk about local expertise. And as you can see, it's super jumbled up because I actually spoke this into the chat. So it was taking my words and it actually set up a really clean prompt, which I will put this in the chat so that you guys can follow along while we go through this together. This does involve adding in your personal information. So let's do this here. If you can open up the chat. Oh, it seems to be more than what's necessary. Okay. I'm going to add this to a document, a Google Doc, and you can play around with it on your end too. Just give me one quick moment. Um, but the easiest way to do this would be to create a doc, and then send you that link. Okay. Now, check the chat to see if you can open this link up. If you have any questions, please let me know. So let's work through this together. using ChatGPT or Gemini. We also have a free access to Gemini using our Keller Williams accounts. If you have any questions about how to access that, please send me a message and we can get together to work on that. But there also is a Tech Thursday that I did a few weeks ago, benkinney.com, that highlights everything in full detail, how to access your Gamma or your Gemini account. So many words. Sorry, so many words. So many LLM words. Okay. So if you open that prompt up, bring it into Gamma. Gamma.app is where you'll go. Gamma.app. I'll also put that into the chat. You can start building up your presentation. You don't need to edit this right now, or you can to make things easier. It's all up to you. So if you edit your information here, or you just bring it over into Gamma. So I'll go back a step. So if I go to gamma.app, I actually have used this before. So I log in with my email and open up a free workspace. And you can see this layout. If you log in with your Keller Williams email, it should be able to sync pretty easily. If you're logged in on your Chrome device, I would highly recommend bookmarking this app. Just in case you want to look for it in the near future, just in case you love it and you want to utilize it for every listing presentation and customize it, I would highly recommend bookmarking this tab. Okay, so going into create a new presentation, you have a couple of options. You can generate from what is already there. You can generate it from using a text prompt that we just created. Paste in text would be your best option for this scenario. You can import a file or URL. That would probably be the doc that I sent you. That would be the best one if you wanted to use this option, whatever the option is. Generally takes you to the same place. So after using paste in text, let's use this one. This is the one I'm most familiar with. I copied and pasted everything in here. And then, hold on, I can actually do that. Well, if you copy and paste everything here and you click on generate from notes or outline, that would be the best option. That takes exactly what you've copied and puts that into the presentation. If you want a summarized version, you can do that. For any other case that you're using Gamma, if you want a summarized version, you could probably use that. It just really depends. For our scenario today, highly recommend using the generate from notes because it already has all of the details that we definitely want. So after hitting the next button, continue to prompt editor, you should arrive here. Let me know if you have any questions, if I'm going too fast. Happy to slow down and address every single step. Or if somebody's just waiting to catch up, please let me know. So to the left side are some tools that you can use to edit your presentation. In the middle, you can still go in and edit that prompt from this point before actually seeing the full presentation. But even then, if you go here and you choose to edit the text, you could just double click and start messing with the text that's already present, 503-887-7979. Boom. If you want to edit it here, if it's easier, if you want to edit it when it's in the presentation, you can do that. The most important thing to focus on at this point is setting up the setting up the presentation text, the theme, the visuals, images. Doesn't look like you can upload the images directly from here, but you can on the actual presentation to make it more personalized. Then format. Do you want it as a document? Do you want it as a presentation? Do you want it as a web page, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure if that will populate well with a free account. I have not tried that yet. And then classic or studio. When you see that word pro, that is a sign that you might not be able to use it unless you are paying for Gamma. I'm not sure how much that is. I am using the free version and I'm happy with it. And so whatever gets the job done, that's my theory. So I'll go for the classic version. Um, I'll also be able to choose more themes here if I click the view more button. Super cool. At least I can generate something that is in alignment with my brand. If you want to take it the next step further and add your logo on there, that might require you to sign up for the pro version. So searching for a theme, that would probably be mine if I were creating one for myself today, or that, because pink and blue and purple are part of my brand colors. So that pink. And if you have any questions about branding as people are creating their marketing materials, websites, landing pages, let me know. Let your ASC know in your office. They're usually at the front desk, or reach out to your team leader to connect you if you haven't met them yet. Um, all of us will be happy to support you with creating um, all of your marketing and just guiding you towards the next step, whether it's working on it here or some resources or Scott Leroy marketing for some extra help. But okay, now that we've selected a theme, we want to go into generate. It will limit you to 10 cards. That is because that's the limitations for the free version. So if you want to extend your presentation even more, if that's what's necessary, you could purchase a subscription to use it for as long as you need and cancel whenever you want. Alrighty, and then here's a cool way to really be precise, is you can edit by card instead of through this personal this freeform document. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna admit some people here. Okay, great. So after you hit generate, what you should see is a full presentation, and a full presentation that looks like this. Let's go over the different editing tools that you could see, because as you scroll down, it looks so it's almost like the presentations app in Google. It's super familiar, but it's also not. There's also a lot of new tools, like this layout on the right-hand side is not super common in presentations. So look out for those buttons on the right-hand side. On the top, you can still edit the theme itself if you're not happy with how it looks. I'd go through a couple of times just to see the overall layout. Then you can customize it if you want. Choose a category of themes, whether you want a more professional approach. That's pretty cool. I don't know if I'd use it, but I actually really like it. Okay, so that's great. I'm glad I tried that. I'm actually really happy with it. So brighter, lighter, easy to read fonts that are nice and easy to read. Sans are the best fonts in my opinion. If you double click on the text, you should be able to start copying, depending on your computer. If you're using a Mac or a PC, maybe different. Um, Double click, right click. Either way, if you highlight the text, you should then be able to customize the fonts. So the fonts will be, well, that's the heading, text, text color. Okay, I don't think the fonts are available. So fonts might be a part of the pro version, if I'm not mistaken. Alrighty. Before we get into all of the buttons, I want to go back to the top and walk you through the entire layout as I would if I were editing it myself for my own listing presentation. So this is the first I'd go through, look at the titles, start changing everything from this point on. Because as you can save this and come back to this and maybe add a couple of additional slides that are custom to the client, you can see this as your listing presentation for the rest of the year. Um, and then you can continue to edit it as you go. So first page is the title cover page. I wanted a cover page. And then for this, I'm envisioning having their name, client name. You can add an image. You can add maybe their property. And then now you can build in some basic blocks, which means their widgets, or if you want to add a table for charts, whatever it is, these are typically a drag and drop. So you can click it or drag it and drop it in. So for the sake of just staying on the main presentation, I'm going to delete this and just continue on. You guys can explore these features and check out this recording later on. But super cool. You have diagrams, you have funnels, you have charts. If you want to represent what's happening in the market, you can bring in oops, I actually accidentally grabbed something I didn't want to. So you can grab in a chart and start manipulating those datas to represent what you want to show. So for example, the pie chart, if I drag in the pie chart, it shows me, okay, now I want to have this represent the housing market and XYZ and change the different counts and types so that it represents the chart here to the right. Super cool. I think I love that for being able to customize everything. To go forward with, and if anybody has any questions, please feel free to uh, jump off of mute. That would be the best way because I can't see the chat as I'm going through this. So this would be deleted. And if I go hover over the top of the page, I should be able to see some other icons pop up, such as these buttons here, which allows me to delete the page. Every time I start something new, like a new presentation or a new editing tool or editing software, I always aim to find the undo button first. So if I ever make a mistake, I know I can simply undo it without panicking. Helps me feel less stressed. So starting off with the homepage, I want to lead into my client intro page and then an introduction where I can customize my bio, add my photo here. And this is just a guide, not necessary for you to add this to be or show your success. It's not necessary, but it is just an example. So you guys can also go here, click on the three buttons and delete. If you don't want to show your years of experience, let's say you're new, you want to talk about how you got into the business. In your bio, you don't necessarily want to add how many homes you've sold. I'll go find those three dots and delete that. And then I can change it to something else or put a photo of me and my family. And that's me and my life with real estate. And they're my goal. They're not my goal. They are who I'm working for, um, kind of my goals. Big on my priority, definitely. So after that, listing process is key in showcasing in your listing presentation. So modify that to the best that you can. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I know this is something that's super new, but these are often what is requested in listing presentations and that people want to use when having these conversations. So I would think, how would you want to have that that conversation with your client? And how can we create those visuals to best represent that and guide you during that conversation? Strategic pricing that sells, offer CMA example, why that's important, why that would be the first step. If that's not done yet, maximizing exposure, especially if it is somebody who is. So I would outline my presentation with all of the information and customize it to the approach of that particular client. Maybe the client already sees the value in staging and doesn't necessarily need to see that I want it there. But when I'm having the presentation, I might not talk about that in full depth because they already know that that's what's needed for their home. So I'm customizing my presentation, but I'm also leaving as much information that I can use it at any time. Have it as a baseline. And then when I have a client that I want to customize it for, then I'll remove or add my slides. Buyer insights, proven track record, not the best title for my just preference. I don't think saying proven track record is my way of saying things. I wouldn't say it like that. I would probably say client experience. But that's up to you. So customize it to the best that you can, that it represents you and your brand and how you want to come across. These are pretty cool that it already uh, created this graph or timeline. And if I hover over, so just to cover that one explanation again, because as you can see, my mouse is on the right side of the screen, outside of the box. Remember, when you go into the timeline or the editing box itself in the very middle, in the center, you start to see lines pop up and these invisible buttons. That's where you want to start clicking if you want to edit that specific box layout. If you want to change this graph where I clicked on the button, I clicked on the button, I didn't click on the button, I clicked on the number 1 here in the chart on the timeline, and this invisible bar came up. That allows me to change this graph into something else, maybe something that is more visual appealing from me. Minimal timeline, that's an option. Timeline with boxes. I love boxes. Okay, great. So I hope that explains how you can generate so much visuals and customize this, um, and even change the colors if you wanted to really be in alignment with your color scheme. As I mentioned, mine is purple, light pink, and blues, heavy blues. So, and then lastly, we have this slide. For the last slide, I would highly recommend you add a link to your buyer brokerage agreement form, contract, or link to sign digitally or to download to sign for a wet signature. But if that's not a part of your process, if you do it before the listing presentation, that might not be necessary. At this point, I hope that, of course, not at this very moment, but after going through the entire presentation and making the changes, editing the photo, and by the way, clicking on the photo here to change it is super easy. You'll just go and hit that delete button. Oops, where's my undo button? Didn't mean to do that. Undo. So remove a recent image. There you go. That's what I wanted to do to upload my own headshot. So that's how you would go about making those little changes to really customizing your listing presentation. And now to save it for use later on. Save copy as a template, not an option, but you can just leave it as is. It should be stored in your main Gamma presentation. Everything that is created is really just stored and saved automatically here. And so now I have my presentation. If I want to save it or send it, export it, the options are right here to export it to a PDF, to export it to a PowerPoint, to Google Slides. Slides is really easily accessible for me because it's on Google, and also we live in the Google suites because we use the KW email so much, and that is a Google email. If you want to export these as photos, you could too. If you wanted to embed this, or if you want to publish it to a site, invite people to collaborate, that's an option too. If you have an assistant, if you want to share this, that would probably require you to publish it to a site. Before we try that out, I want to go back to the home page. So I'm just going to type Gamma and leave that for the next part of the presentation. So your home strategy is right here. From this point, instead of saving it as a template, I'd probably duplicate this and save one version as the template version. So now that I've dedicated this to be my template, then I know that every time I want to generate a custom listing presentation for someone, I'll go to this specific doc, duplicate that, and then kind of go from there. So sites here. Okay, now we can go back to exploring the different options of creating a site. From my experience, you'd have to attach a domain, and that's another step in the whole entire process. Let's just give it a shot. As things change, you'll notice AI expands and has changed so much so rapidly in the past couple of months that option to create a site through this wasn't available when I first started using this. So, okay, Google Metapixel, okay, great for ads. Awesome. Google Tag Manager, top nav bar. Top nav bar, no nav bar. Top nav bar allows you to scroll through these pages. So it creates, and then this would be the logo that appears on the top. If you could see on the top of your tabs, that's where the fav icon goes. Then domains. Okay, so it gives you one. This space. So it seems like it can create a fake domain or a subdomain is what it's really called for you, but it uses the Gamma site website domain. So it'll be https:// title of your presentation with dashes in between. So that would be really critical if you're concerned about at least having something to reference or create some familiarity there, like, oh, this is your listing presentation if you were to send it to somebody after presenting. Let's see that. But you might still need to, let's see. After publishing it, if it allows us to see the full presentation, boom, you have a website version. This is great. I love this so much. I'm glad we can experience this together. Now, where's my nav bar? I didn't choose a nav bar, did I? Okay. Upgrade to publish with custom domain. That makes a lot more sense. Settings, go here, top nav bar, no nav bar, top nav bar. I thought it would create a top nav bar, so top navigation bar is not set up. Either way, I would see this as the easiest way to pull up this presentation, and it has automations built in. So look how beautiful that is. You don't even have to go into gamma.app to pull up the presentation. You have a accessible site for it, which is really similar to what Canva can provide as well. Canva will build a web page for you using their own domain. And we have not changed any of these, but look at how awesome. Okay, I love that timeline animation. Great. Do you guys have any questions? Thank you for sticking around. I will have this recording on the cloud or on the hub, hopefully before the end of the week with Haley's help. And we are super excited to bring more information, more guides to you, more tech classes to you. I hope this was helpful and hope it expands um, broadens your mind to other ways that you can use Gamma or any other tech tools that we have. You have access to Gemini, which can create similar prompts and execute a similar presentation. It may look slightly different as all these large language models communicate in their own way. Find that Gamma is super um, thorough and uh, communicates on a more human way. If you have any questions about that, if you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out. If nobody has any questions or wants to chime in, I think I will end it here. And next class that we have is going to be about websites. That would be how to use the KW website that you have available to you. So hope to see you all there. And thank you for coming to Tech Thursday.